Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve with myself, Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And Mr. Steed is on holiday, and so it's just myself and Alex today. We did offer out to our other group admins, so we might have some guests. We'll see. But for right now, how you doing today, Alex?
Good. I finally got to go see that Blue Beetle movie, and I was incredibly stoked. I was very surprised. I went, and I didn't have anybody else in my theater, and it was like bittersweet, because at one point, I got a phone call during the movie, and I looked around, and I was the only person because I went to go see it all by myself. So I was like, well, I guess I can answer this. So I just talked on the phone in the movie theater. It was very funny. So, but yeah, I was very excited to get to go see that movie. Been waiting for a Blue Beetle movie forever. So
nice. I probably got to see it as well. I actually went Sunday morning with my son, so him and I went. And our theater was pretty packed. A lot of black and brown people in my fast showings. That was pretty good. It was pretty good to see. We also watched The Flash finally on Saturday night.
What, in theaters? Is it still?
No, HBO Max, or on VMAX, sorry. Yeah, the Max. So I know we're not talking The Flash today, but I did have some thoughts on it.
They mentioned The Flash and Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Very briefly, him and Superman. So, and they were something about Superman and The Flash in Central City. So,
yep.
I was like, okay, so little throw in that movie. So,
it was kind of what I expected. I thought the standouts in The Flash were Michael Keaton and Sasha Calle. I really liked how she did the Supergirl in that one. I liked Michael Keaton being the old man Batman in there, and cutting the hair, helping them out, and that kind of stuff. And they almost pretty much did the same thing with kind of like Doctor Strange and What If with Christine and the Absolute Point.
Yeah,
the same thing happened with Supergirl and Batman. No matter what the other Barry would do, the result was the same. I did that was pretty cool. They brought Michael Shannon back and the whole Zod thing. The whole thing with Barry's powers and that kind of stuff, and how it was himself that pushed him out of the Speed Force to make sure that he got his powers, because he was in there trying to change things. So I thought that was interesting. But I don't know. I kind of felt they missed the ball. I kind of like how we had Batmans throughout the Batman history. We had 3 in this movie. But I thought the final Batman, they could have brought, yeah. I think they should have brought Bale back instead of Clooney for that scene.
Yeah.
The other thing too I thought about the movie was, did he not learn his lesson?
I have talked about this so many times. He's literally okay, so I just basically fractured everything, but you know what? I'm still gonna move that can of tomatoes or whatever.
Yeah.
Into the movie and make them on the top shelf, so my dad looks up at the camera. And it's okay, and it just so happens everything works out, but you're just you just spent this whole movie learning this lesson the hard way, and now you're oh, I'm gonna go back and do it the same thing again, but just different.
Yeah, exactly. It's same, but different, but still same.
yeah. Okay, dude. But yeah, I was very kind of frustrated, because in that moment at the end of the movie, you're this movie just kind of backtracked on the entire plot, basically. I get that, he saved his dad another way, but they could have just had him try and fix everything and go back to the future, and then his dad's just out of jail.
Yeah.
And it'd be one of those things I don't know how that happened. Maybe it was just the universe cutting me a break or something, and I feel that would have been better. But to make his actions not be learned from and then replicate them again, to change it again, it's just okay,
And I kind of also, too, the CGI at times was, mediocre. I'm just can we get back to more practical effects? If you're going to use CGI, make sure it's the best CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just do the CGI for the sake of doing it. And maybe they had some constraints or the reshoots, that kind of stuff. I don't know what happened, but there was times when it's like, yeah, this does not look like it's, it looked more like a WB type of production at times.
Yeah, and I feel like for them, like a lot of those, like especially,
Or I'm sorry, not WB, CW. Sorry,
Yeah.
CW production at times.
Yeah, so like for me, I think a lot of those scenes were supposed to be like Speed Force slow motion kind of scenes, and I feel like that's such like a hard kind of like thing to capture. I'm not really making an excuse for it, but I don't really think anybody like has really gotten it 100% right, with like the Flash on that. Like the CW, I think like in sometimes like I think they did a good job with the Flash show, like up until the later seasons. But like I think like for the CGI and stuff, they did a pretty decent job for the Flash. But like in this movie, I think they just kind of struggled with it in some parts. It didn't feel like it was as fluid as it should have been, I guess, for lack of a better.
Yeah.
I
I thought the cameos were cool, but I could have done without the Nicolas Cage fighting the Spider one.
Oh, and that goes back to that like Kevin Smith movie where he's supposed to be fighting the giant spider. Yeah, and it's so funny too because it's like when I was watching that movie, I was just like, of all the cameos we could have got, and we get Nicolas Cage as Superman. It was like the thing that never happened, that never should have, and they still gave us a taste of it. It's like, ugh.
And we even had that one cameo with Ezra Miller's meeting the one from the CW. In the Crisis show. So It's like you couldn't have put his Flash in the movie as a cameo. You couldn't have put Tyler Hankins Superman as a movie, or that, or Brandon Routh's Superman in there as cameos. You had all kinds of options other than doing the Nicolas Cage fighting the giant spider one.
And like they could have honestly, and I just thought about this, and I'm surprised nobody's talked about this. I haven't seen anything, but they could have taken Ezra Miller playing like Ezra Miller, like both like they could have replaced one of those castings with what's his name?
Grant Gustin.
Yeah.
Gustin.
Yeah, so we could have had like both versions of the Flash there.
Yeah.
And that could have been like both of them in that movie. And I feel like that would have made a lot of like, I feel like sense with like everything kind of like with the CW ending and with the Warner Brothers stuff like resetting with DC movies. So I don't know. It would have been interesting,
It was pretty cool, that one change, though, that all the metahumans were gone, pretty much.
Yeah.
In the phone calls he made, especially when he made the phone call to Aquaman's dad, I thought that was entertaining. So, yeah.
There was a lot of stuff from, like, the Flashpoint, like, comics, and there's even an animated movie that they don't do everything exactly the same in the animated movie, but it's, like, it's pretty similar, I think. It's closer to the comics than this movie was. And this movie, like, I feel like the third act kind of like struggled a little bit for me. I thought like all the family stuff was really incredibly powerful and everything and incredibly moving. But yeah, it was like, I liked Michael Keaton. I felt like he did a great job in this. It was just like, it felt like towards the end of the movie, it just didn't really deliver as much as I was expecting it to. And it felt like they were cramming all that stuff in, like Christopher Reeve as Superman and stuff like that. And I was just like, I think he's the perfect Superman. So like, I was happy to see him. But then we had like the CGI Cavill. And I'm like, we could have just had Cavill, like, actually, like, stand there. And, like, I'm sure he would have done that, like, for that. Or we could have just used another shot. But, like, I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird in some stuff that they chose to do with the CGI.
It was also interesting, too, that Affleck's last line to him and Keaton's last line to him were the same.
Yeah, and what's so funny, too, is when Affleck says that line to Barry in the movie about, like, like, I think he says something like, I won't see you again, or something. He says something like, it's, like, very, like, a line that makes you think, oh, you're never going to see him again. Like, I was like, oh, well, I guess that's the last time we'll ever see Affleck, and then, yeah, he's gone,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right. Like, it is very interesting. I guess it's, like, kind of, like, selling that idea that all the Batmen are almost very similar, no matter who it is, it's or what version it is, So
anyways, that's all my thing on the Flash. We're here to talk Blue Beetle, so let's get into it. Was it Palmyra City? Palmyra City felt very much like Miami, right?
Yeah, it did. It really did. It was very cool. I liked like the glowing like cityscape that they did at night and everything like that. It was very cool. very techno looking, you know, and fits very well, I feel like, with a movie about like, you know, tech essentially is what the Scarab is. So, you know.
It was also interesting too that it does have a lot of parallels to Ant-Man in a way.
And Spider-Man too.
Spider-Man a little bit too, but you bring more of the family affair into this. I also thought it was interesting too that Victoria Cord, she kind of felt like Darren Cross-ish, even at times when she saw the OMAC. The OMAC had the similar colors to the Yellow Jacket suit in those renderings they showed. But also too, Victoria and Jenny at times also felt like Stark and Stain at times a little bit. So I felt some parallels there, and I'm compared to MCU-ish because I know Marvel more than I do DC. So just thinking of some of the parallels thing, but this movie nailed the family aspect, right? You know, Ant-Man kind of gave you the tease of it, but this one completely nailed the family aspect, right? You had everyone from the grandma to the cousin, the parents, the sister, everyone was involved, right? You know, and I felt like the grandma kind of in ways stole the show at times, especially towards the end when you find out more about grandma's past and she was a revolutionary and that kind of stuff.
You know, like I was just like, when she like screams and has that, like, you know, what that like Scarface moment or whatever, you know, I was just like, oh no, like we're doing one of those. But yeah, I mean, I did like, I really like George Lopez. I don't know why, but like I've always like sort of like been a fan of his. Like I used to always go to sleep at night and wake up with him and his family jumping on trampolines.
Yeah, the George Lopez show. Yeah, yeah, we watched that.
So I used to always end up watching like the George Lopez show all the time. So like I've always liked George Lopez, and he's funny. So like him being in this movie, I was kind of like, I don't really know if I'm gonna like him being in this movie. I just didn't really like picture him being in the Blue Beetle movie, and I thought he did a really good job. Like I enjoyed him. You know?
He was the guy in the chair for Jaime. Right.
Yeah.
He was that Ned, that Ned Peter relationship almost in a way, but instead of being friends, it was uncle and nephew type of thing. And he definitely hit the guy in the chair, especially once they got to Cord's house, you know, and he went through and started getting into all the tech and plus all his paranoia and knowing things and his El Chapulín device that helped disable their cameras, you know. And I thought what's funny too is that El Chapulín he was talking about, the cartoon they showed, that was actually a live action show for a while. Then it was a cartoon, so it was interesting that you got some of that lore in there from Latino culture, the El Chapulín show, but also too the telenovela reference of Maria La del Barrio when they kept saying that Jaime was Maria and that Jenny was the rich person saving him, that kind of stuff with the relationship. So you had that cultural aspect in there of that too as well. So those are actually real things. So my wife was telling me. I was telling her about it, and she goes, yeah, my mom used to watch that. My aunt used to watch that when we were kids. So,
wow. That's cool. That's cool. I feel like maybe George Lopez maybe brought that in himself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like maybe that was all on him, maybe. I'll tell you one thing that I really appreciated about this movie was I feel like there's like this one misconception that always happens, and it's anytime somebody sees Jaime Reyes' name, they always say Jamie. And this movie nailed that, like right off the bat. He walks into Cord Industries or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you're Jamie," and he's like, "Oh, Jaime," and they're like, "Okay, Jamie, yeah, like." And I was like, man, that is so spot on, because like I've had that conversation with people at least 3, 4, 5 times, like easy, you know. So like, yeah, I mean, I really liked how they did that. The suit looked fantastic in this movie. I know a lot of people were like complaining about it, but I think they did a really good job too with a lot of the CGI. Some of the movements would be like kind of quick and kind of blurred, and they were in the dark, but they used like the red glowing suit, like contrasting the blue glowing suit, everything to kind of help with that. I think that looked really, really good from that perspective. I love the way that suit looks, so seeing it in live action, like I was stoked about that. So I've always been a big Blue Beetle fan.
Yeah, it kind of felt like if you're coming into this and you don't know Blue Beetle and you know more of some of the other movies, that his suit kind of felt like a mix of Ant-Man, Venom with a little Green Lantern, right? Especially when it said anything you can imagine you can do, you know, and that's kind of a little bit Green Lantern as well. But also too, at times when he was getting the suit and trying to figure out how to use the suit and be a superhero, he had that greatest American hero. Remember that show, The Greatest American Hero, where he got the suit from an alien thing, and then he just kept crash landing and burning, all that kind of stuff, and he was still trying to figure it out. At times, he felt like the greatest American hero when he was still getting to that suit and building up until when he actually knew how to use it, and they became symbiotic, in that to be able to work as one. So
yeah, I will say this though, one of my biggest problems in this movie was I felt like they flipped it backwards, like the wrong way, and it was the scene where like he wants to kill Carapax and the suit stops him. I felt like the suit should have been wanting to kill Carapax, and him's like fighting to stop it, and I felt like that scene was just kind of reversed a little bit, because like the Scarab should have been like, because like earlier on it was wanting to like neutralize like all threats and everything like that, and that's kind of like the like Kaji Da is kind of one of those things where it's like every time I always see it, maybe I'm just like tainted by Young Justice, but like like I always hear it talking in that voice like kill, 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 like it just wants to kill everything, So like him like having the suit be like, no, you're making the wrong. I was like, all right, like maybe we didn't do that right, and I didn't like that, but I thought that they did a really cool scene there, though, because, like, Carapax is kind of this, like, broken individual, like, he had been, like, injured. It looked like he had been, like, altered and everything like that. And they're kind of doing that thing where, like, they're helping him get back to, like, some sort of semblance of, like, whatever, but then also being better.
Yeah.
And I thought that they did a really good job with that, because I think his character in, like, the comics was, like, more of, like, he's like a living kind of like machine, more or less. He was a robot that they had taken like the consciousness and put it inside of like a machine. So like we eventually got there in this movie. So I liked how they kind of like made him like a great counter to Blue Beetle. It's a little bit different than I think maybe some people were expecting, but like very, very cool, I think,
Yeah, I think of the whole thing with the suit stopping Jaime from killing Carapax at the end was more of the suit learning from, or the technology learning from him. Remember, at first, the suit wanted to kill everybody. It says, you know what? You mess with me, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, that kind of thing. But he was like, no, we're not going to kill. We'll only disable, right? And then they had the moment in the beginning where Carapax said, you should have killed me when you had the chance. And then he was wanting to because he thought that Carapax killed his Uncle Rudy. And he was still, I think at that point, they found his sister or not. I can't remember or not. But he thought he lost some family. And that kind of pushed him over the edge. And the suit was like, no, we're not here to kill people. So it's almost like that learning thing as they became symbiotic to where they started learning from each other.
Yeah, I was a little bit, I guess, frustrated by the part when the suit was just like, oh, you're on your own right now. Like, you're done. And I was just like, what? No, the suit would be like, give me control. Give me control. Like, give me the reins. Like, Jaime, like, and it would be like, all right, like, yeah, I'll give you the reins. And then boom, like the suit takes over. But I was just like, the suit's just like, all right, I'm out. Like, it's just you now. And I was just like, oh no, like, and I get like why they did that. I feel like for the kind of like a transitionary point in that scene. But yeah, I mean, like it kind of like makes like Jaime kind of come out like more aggressively and everything like that. And it shows that great shot of like the suit where he's like wearing half the mask, half of it not. And I really like that.
Yeah, it kind of was like that nanotech moment with Stark in Infinity War.
Yep. So where like it's like he's missing sections of the suit because like he's just damaged and everything right now. He's not fully back up and running. So, and he had a good scene too where he's like not wearing the mask in that fight scene too. So yeah, I mean like, and I love the weaponry in this movie, right? Like they brought an iconic thing that I've always loved about Blue Beetle, and it's like the giant staple weapons that he does, where he makes like the giant staples that come out. I love that. I don't know why. I've always thought it was so cool, but yeah, I was just like, I was kind of open to like a giant mace, maybe something like that. But I mean, like, man, like they killed it. Like the blades, like the flying. I love the space scene. Like the suit looked great. I like I said, like it's a very cool version of this character that they done with like Jaime Reyes, especially in comparison, in my opinion, to like Ted Kord, which we get a nice little teaser about at the end of the movie, which I thought was very cool too. So
and speaking of Ted Kord, so we find out he was the Blue Beetle, but he never got the actual Scarab to work for him, right? There was a Blue Beetle before him. and one during his time that had the Scarab, but he actually built tech off the Scarab, kind of like what Victoria Court was trying to do. And we saw all that stuff in his house, in his command center. We saw that there was a suit missing, so obviously that teaser that you said at the end where it looks like Ted Kord is alive, he went missing, they never confirmed he was dead. And so it looks like he still has his suit on wherever he is, but the tech in the house was pretty cool, right? The Beetle ship, the Power Glove looking piece, the Sister War, so that was pretty cool. And then just the watch that Jenny had as well to be able to get into his command center.
There was so many cool like Ted Kord shouts in this movie that they showed the ship. I love that. And like even down to like Dan Garrett actually had the Scarab like work for him, but Ted Kord never did. So like Jaime Reyes is kind of like, I guess, the second person to actually have the Scarab like work for them like on a host. And I thought it was really cool how like they still had Dan Garrett's suit in like that place, because they talk about it in this movie, and they're like, Ted Kord basically came up with all this tech and everything like that. Now obviously it's inspired by the Scarab and what he's learned and everything like that. So I thought it was very cool. So to have him like put out a transmission at the end of this and be like, like I'm alive, I'm out here. It felt very much like the guy from Stargirl that was in the shadow.
Yes, I had the same vibes. Yes,
Dr. McKnight.
Yes,
yeah. Like I was like, oh, really? Like he's just out there lost somewhere. Like So I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. I thought the exact same thing with the Shadowlands when he went into that moment. So where do you think Ted Kord is? Is he somewhere? Because remember, they were looking all over the world in the beginning of the movie. A lot of those things were decoys, or not decoys, but not the actual real thing, and they finally found it. So do you think that he got lost trying to find those before Victoria took over? Where do you think he is?
So I'm not actually sure. They actually did a series where like him and Jaime Reyes like kind of like came about, and I think we might draw on that potentially. I think that there's maybe some other potential ties here. Like it would be cool like if you just had like Ted Kord is literally just like been palling around with Booster Gold because they were very close.
Yeah.
So you could have that, and maybe he's like time displaced or something, and he's like reaching out somehow to his computer. It shows like a satellite, so it makes you like think that maybe he's somewhere on the globe, like transmitting to a satellite. Like for me, I feel like this is setting up maybe a potential second project where like we have Jaime Reyes go and save the second Blue Beetle from a bad situation, and we have Ted Kord come back, because like it's that idea in this movie. George Lopez even says that he's like, like this guy was an old superhero, like he wasn't like Superman or like some of these other people, but he was still a superhero, because Ted Kord is more of just like a guy who builds tech and like punches people and stuff. He's not really anything like too crazy. So yeah, I mean, like, but him and Booster Gold have a really great relationship, so I would like to see that. I think that would be kind of cool to have maybe him and Booster Gold be somewhere. He could be hiding from somebody. Maybe he was hiding from his sister or something. But I mean, like, he should have been in charge of Kord Industries. So, like, maybe there's a small part of me, like, when they found the Scarab, maybe he had hid it there. Maybe they could explore that a little bit. Maybe, like, he hid it there and was in hiding himself. Like, they could do probably a few different things, but I'd really like to see the Booster Gold angle played. I feel like,
Yeah, I think that could probably be the next piece for this, is that Booster Gold project, and maybe like in some kind of like post credits or towards the end, we see Ted Kord, and then that leads into the next Blue Beetle project. We had the three of them together.
Yeah,
I think that would be pretty cool. Remember too, this movie was supposed to be for the Max release, right? And they decided to make a theatrical release, and I think for something being for the Max, this was a pretty good show or movie for that. It was a very family fun movie. My son enjoyed it. My wife wanted to go, but my daughter had class that day, so she took my daughter to her class, and my son and I went and watched the movie. So I'll probably go see it again with my wife, just from telling her about it and that kind of stuff, and she was already stoked to want to see it anyway, so I'll probably go see it again. I'm hoping this movie does pick up. It's done kind of a slow start. It doesn't help that, the whole thing about the DCU, that this being the first DCU character, but Superman Legacy is going to be the first DCU movie. So I think that kind of hurt things here with this movie. I also think that the fact that that we have the strike going on right now, so they really couldn't do the whole press junket for this, also helps. I think, how do you say his name? Zol? Is it Zol?
Oh, that's gonna be a hard one for me.
Anyways, the main,
I can't pronounce it.
The main character who plays Jaime Reyes, he was in Cobra Kai as Miguel. I think he's gonna be a star. I like to see him in more projects too, in more things. But I want to see more Blue Beetle. Right, this was probably like really that superhero movie in a long time that really caught the whole family aspect. Yeah, there's been shades of in other projects throughout DC and Marvel and that kind of stuff, but I felt that this movie fully encapsulated the family, and the superhero and all the embracing type stuff. So I hope we see more of Blue Beetle, and I hope we get more of this actor.
So I feel like I can't really name anything that he's in. I know he was in Cobra Kai, right?
Yep.
I haven't seen Cobra Kai. So, like, I don't really know him from, like, anything. I liked him as Jaime Reyes. I thought he did a good job with that. I'm kind of just hoping that after this movie, like, we don't, obviously have to have a Blue Beetle 2 movie anytime soon, but if they do plan on doing that Booster Gold project, like was rumored a long time ago, I would love to see both Ted Kord and Jaime Reyes pop up in that, and you could just have Ted Kord kind of just, like, more officially passing the mantle on to Jaime Reyes, like kind of like introducing him to Booster Gold or something, and I think that would be cool.
So he is 22 years old right now. He is film-wise, he's been in, I haven't seen Dealing with Idiots, Good Night America, or with Tina. I haven't seen, there's a short film. So this is like his major film right here, The Blue Beetle. His first big film. TV-wise, he was in Parenthood for a couple seasons. I'm trying to think. What else was he in? That's been for a while. But that probably was his biggest one besides Cobra Kai. He was in a couple other things. But yeah, his Victor and Valentino, Cleopatra in Space, Cobra Kai and Parenthood are his big TV projects. Then he also was in he voices Miguel Diaz in the Cobra Kai 2 video game as well. So he's kind of a rising star. I'd love to see him in more things. But again, I want to see more Blue Beetle, whether it's in other projects like Booster Gold, if they do any other kind of things. But definitely would love to see him in as more of Jaime Reyes.
The thing about Blue Beetle is I feel like Blue Beetle, like, Dan Garrett was like, okay, everybody kind of likes Ted Kord, but, like, even up to, like, Ted Kord, like, he's been a lot in, like, a lot of things, like, a lot of comics and stuff, but, like, I feel like as for popularity-wise, Blue Beetle's always been one of those characters that just wasn't really, like, a big mainstream character, and when Jaime Reyes came around and was, like, the third Blue Beetle and really kind of took this mantle, like, I think, like, it was, like, a great, like, modernization of the character because, like, it was, like, he got a great suit, like, everything, I think it is one of my favorite comic costumes ever, looking at, like, that suit, and it's very much like the Iron Man bleeding edge armor, it's like a symbiote, like in Marvel, mixed with, like, AI, and what's funny is in this movie, I was expecting it to be more of, like, Ultron, but it was more of, like, Jarvis, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I was like, okay, but I was, like, expecting it to, like, like, be more, like, hateful and aggressive and things like that. But, yeah, I mean, like, I think it's a very cool, like, character, and I think that this time around, third Blue Beetle, I think that, obviously, I think it's the best one. And I think Jaime Reyes is, like, honestly a fantastic character, and he's got one of the coolest costumes ever.
Could you see them doing the Peacemaker out with this? So we first got Peacemaker in Suicide Squad 2, and then we got the Peacemaker series on HBO Max at the time. Now it's the Max. Could you see this kind of being his big thing in the movie, and then having a Blue Beetle series on the Max going forward with cameos and other DCU projects? Could you see that happen?
I actually think that there's a couple of places he could pop up. I don't know if he would get his own series, but I think that like we could definitely maybe see him. Like we've got that Green Lantern project like supposedly supposed to come out. Like we know that the Reach, which is who made the Scarab, are like enemies of the Lanterns. They're like some of like the oldest groups of people to exist in the universe, like going all the way back to the Guardians of Oa and the Reach who make the Scarab. So they're like two of the oldest ones. So like, you know, you could basically play up that conflict. You could make the like Green Lanterns aware that there's a Scarab on Earth. You could like, you know, make it one of those things where like maybe some conflict with the Reach shows up in, you know, the Green Lantern show. We just had that like scene in the movie where we were talking about this with the ring, where you see what looks like a green like burst of energy.
It is,
the
yeah.
Scarab, yeah. So like, you know, like it's one of those things where it's like they kind of hint towards it in the movie already. So I don't think that it's like too ridiculous to say maybe we see it somewhere like a Scarab or maybe another Scarab. It doesn't have to be, you know, Jaime Reyes as Blue Beetle. So maybe we see like something else in the Green Lantern show. There's a few different places I feel like we could maybe potentially see this. Booster Gold being another one, you know. But yeah.
And just to confirm what Alex was talking about that we talked about earlier is that in the opening sequence of the movie, you see the Scarab bump into a green light and the light goes off somewhere else. Well, director Angel Manuel Soto confirmed that a Green Lantern appeared in the opening sequence. So that green burst of light you see is a Green Lantern in space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like, it's really cool, too, because I feel like that's a great tie, because that's, like, a tie that you could tie, like, back, like, you know, millions of years, thousands of years, however far back you want to go, like, to where, like, the Reach have been in conflict with the Lanterns, and that sets up, like, a much bigger play in the universe and everything like that. And, you know, they talk about in this movie that this thing is a world-destroying weapon.
Yep.
But they don't ever really explain what that is, and I feel like they left that meat on the bone so, like, they could basically develop that later on and basically, like, show, like, and explain a little bit more, maybe in something else, like, what the Scarab actually is and how dangerous it is. Because it's a very cool thing, I feel like, in DC, so...
Yeah, I think a character like this and then seeing characters like Booster Gold coming out, I think are more welcome, especially traditionally with DC kind of focusing more on the big three, which is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Seeing more of these different characters out there, I think is a good thing. Yes, we're getting the Flash. Yes, we got Aquaman. Yes, we got Suicide Squad. But I think this might be, I don't know, if you see how with Gunn kind of run the show now, coming from what he did with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then maybe building out a team with Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, maybe some other things, this could kind of be a good thing in his wheelhouse for a different type of project for him to kind of make kind of front and center of different characters.
Yeah, and I feel like Booster Gold and Ted Kord is like something that would make like a great show, and I feel like that would be right in his realm because they've got a very funny, like ridiculous kind of like take jabs at each other and have a very humorous relationship. But I mean, like, even with Jaime Reyes, like, you could have Jaime Reyes I didn't actually think we were going to get Ted Kord, to be honest. Like, I thought it was going to be something maybe touched on until the end of this movie, and I thought we would maybe go straight into, like, Jaime Reyes with Booster Gold in the Booster Gold show. But now that it seems like we're built up to the idea that we might get a Ted Kord at some point, I feel like that adds, like, even more depth to what's going on, and, you know, they briefly touched on Dan Garrett in this movie as Blue Beetle.
Yep.
And they, like, basically explain, you know, like, he's a professor. He basically found the Scarab and everything, and he gave it to Kord and everything. And I felt like a lot of the accuracy, for the most part, like, in this movie was, like, spot on, like, comics-wise. Like, the story was, like, pretty spot on for the most part. There were just, like, some minor details, but, like, for, like, Dan Garrett, for Ted Kord, like all that, like everything was majority like pretty accurate, which I liked. So very cool.
Before we move on to talk about the general news and rumors, any closing thoughts on Blue Beetle?
I'm really interested to see what they do with this movie. I'll be really surprised if they don't do something with this character. I mean, we know that like Shazam is now in the future of DC, the Suicide Squad, like other characters. I mean, we've got what's his name, Weasel, that's going to be in that TV show. It's going to be like the first TV show of the new DC universe, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think that even if this movie doesn't come out and do $300 million or anything like that, I don't understand why they would not keep Jaime Reyes in the DCU. Like, they need to keep rolling forward with this character. Love this character. And yeah, I mean, I think it would just be a big missed opportunity if they kept Shazam. I think that this movie should definitely stay in there because they could do so much with this character. You could have him, like I said, pop up in Booster Gold or Green Lanterns or something, or you could have you could even do something and it'd be just a little tiny Easter egg, but you could have on that Paradise, what is Paradise Lost? Is that the name of the Mascara?
Yeah.
So you could have the Amazons look up in the sky and see the Scarab fly through the sky and crash or something on Earth or something. You could do anything. You could have those little ties there, and I feel like it would be cool. And you could make that history just built into the universe for the Scarab, and build some ties there going way back historically, basically. So that's my hope. What they do with Blue Beetle. So
yeah, I agree. I want to see more. I enjoyed it. For someone going in who's not as versed in Blue Beetle as you are and knows very little about Blue Beetle, I went in just to have a joy movie, not have to worry about some of the other things, looking at things. And I thought it was, like I said, a family fun movie. That quote from Dodgeball, that's been good, clean family fun. But yeah, we enjoyed it, and it had the whole feels of the family stuff, and just seeing this young person who's kind of the family's kind of down the outs. He's trying to find a job, just trying to do right by his family to help them out. Kind of comes in this position, becomes one with the Scarab, and just to kind of see the evolution in the movie of them together and the whole Ted Core technology type stuff. I want to see more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, we know that there's other Scarabs. I think it was called Olmec in this movie, right?
Yep.
Yep. So that was meant to be a reproduction, a human form of a Scarab, basically. That was supposed to be the foundation, and then they take programming from the Scarab and put it with that, and then they make their own version of it, basically. But I think with that, that not only opens the door, but there are other Beetles, there are other people from other planets with Scarabs. We could definitely have Jaime Reyes face off against some of those in the future, and it's a great one of those fight fire with fire type of thing that they love to do in movies,
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, why not have another Beetle as a villain in a movie? And I think it would be great. I feel like Carapax was kind of the start to that.
Yeah, an appetizer. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So so I really hope that they do more with that character.
All right, well, let's go on to the general news and rumors. So let's go and start for strike news. So the judge rules that AI is not copyrightable. So basically, a piece of art is created by AI can't be copyrighted. The opinion stressed human authorship is a bedrock requirement. So this is a big blow to studios who are trying to use AI and that kind of stuff, which basically, pushes back to studios saying AI is a tool, not an author.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, all that stuff with AI is kind of scary, with artwork and stuff like that. I mean, even some of the artwork it makes kind of scary. It'll make 8 fingers and 3 eyes and stuff like that, and it does some crazy artwork. So I know a lot of people were upset about the Secret Invasion intro, with how that was made and everything like that. But even the Secret Invasion intro, I mean, it kind of made me feel kind of weird looking at it. It was very creepy looking.
Yeah.
And I get that was kind of the tone, I feel with that. So I get what they were trying to do there. But yeah, I mean, it was some very interesting artwork. And I mean, I know it was made by AI, so I'm reluctant to call it artwork, but you know what I'm saying? It's interesting imagery, to say the least,
Moving on to the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. It's being reported that Jeff Loveness and Michael Waldron are no longer attached to the projects. So that's some shake up there, in the writer's room.
Yeah, and Loveness worked on Quantum Mania, right?
Yep.
And the other one, what did the other one work on?
Waldron, I thought he did some of the original Doctor Strange Loki. And also Loki, and I thought, did he do anything with WandaVision at all?
Maybe he did. I remember him maybe working on the writing or something like that. I think for that, but I'm not entirely sure. I feel like I remember his name being tossed around at least. But I mean, Quantum Mania is not as good as it should have been in my personal opinion. I liked Quantum Mania just because it was one of those movies to me where Ant-Man movies, I never really take them too seriously. So I was a little bit surprised to see a Kang variant in in Ant-Man, but yeah, I thought it was kind of wacky and it definitely could have been better, but yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm curious to see who they choose as replacements and how that impacts the story that they're trying to tell, because I mean, they had chose those two writers to tell a certain story that they like the way that they tell stories. So now that them hiring somebody else, I mean, has there been any word on who it might be or anything? Okay. So, that's interesting.
Yeah. There's another rumor going around about Secret Wars that it's very likely to set up a soft reboot of the entire MCU. Almost like what The Flash did with the DCU. It'll be a send-off for not only the entirety of the Foxverse, but the MCU that we've seen up to date. Afterwards, it'll be an all-new, all-different MCU. So I also wonder, too, if this does happen, are we going to start at square one with a new Iron Man and build from there? Or are they going to go in a completely different direction and bring these other characters in?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that, they have the opportunity to. It just really just depends. For the future, I feel like there's just way too much up in the air right now, it feels like we don't really know where we're going, so it's kind of hard to exactly say what I think, how it's going to be right now. I feel like I'm a little bit shocked, honestly, that we lost those two writers, because I felt like those, when you have writers attached to projects and they're towards the end, you almost know where you feel like you think you have this going, in your head. But yeah, now it's almost everything might change, the build up and everything. So I'm really curious. I feel like it's going to impact probably a lot of Marvel characters and probably a reboot. I feel like it would probably impact that. And we had that rumor about there being a second universe running at the same time, right? That would be a second MCU.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot going on right now. Multiverse has a lot happening, so.
Thunderbolts, via Collider, director Jake Schreier says that Thunderbolts will not serve as a sequel to any previous Marvel project. It was just a really different approach and a new kind of story to tell in this, that, which I know they've made so many things, but it's not a sequel. Yes, these characters have appeared before, but it is a new story being told, a story, I think, with a very different perspective that many people aren't expecting. And I think that felt exciting and felt a real challenge worth taking on. Now, just from saying that, Century, we know Century's probably to be the villain of the movie, probably. It does sound like they're kind of, the super soldier thing, trying to create again, this time a Canadian scientist and all that kind of stuff. I think if they go somewhere different with this, they'd have to rely heavily on the Void somehow, I would think, with Century.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like with the Void, so you got this weird kind of thing with the Void, right? Because I feel like in comics, it's not that it's weird, but it is kind of weird, right? And I feel like putting that on screen is going to be hard for them. So I feel like one of the best ways for them to almost do the Void would be to make it a split personality, make it one of those things where you see John Walker, you hear the high pitch and it's he snaps, it's a little bit crazy. Make the Century have that, but instead of the high pitch, it's just like him snapping and becoming the Void, and then like snapping back, and I mean, like, I feel like it's really hard to do that character. There's some characters I feel like that are very like hard for them to put on screen that would be very like that would look good and be well. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would do something like that. I feel like so do we still have what's his name? Steven Yeun? He's supposed to be a Century?
That's what it seems like right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, maybe they could do that with him. Maybe have him play multiple personalities or something, kind of get that Moon Knight kind of thing going on. And it'd be very interesting, I feel like.
I also wonder if they could kind of do it like Unicron in Galvatron type thing, where he kind of like kind of spaces out and goes to like talk to Unicron, and Unicron's threatening him and making him do his bidding. I wonder if they could do sort of like that too, as well as an idea, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like with that character, I mean, you can attach it to the super soldier serum, obviously, and make ties. And we know that there's a lot still going on with that in the MCU. I mean, Falcon and the Winter Soldier just like basically built up a lot more of that's happening recently. So we know that there's a lot of that happening in the background of the MCU. So, I mean, there's so many different, I feel like, avenues they can go with it. And the thing is with super soldier serum, somebody's always going to be trying to replicate it or make it or something like that. So you can do a lot with it. And having the guy who's got like, what do they say? Like the power of 10,000 exploding suns or something like that is what the Century has. Like, it's incredible. So it's one of those things where like, if somebody can manufacture something like that, it would be one of those things that I feel like everybody in the world, if they found out about it, would want it and want to know, like, how do we make that? And then that almost makes like another super soldier serum race, that they could easily play into. So they could just keep that just going throughout the MCU.
That's the one constant, is some kind of super soldier serum, some kind of experimentation.
Yep, always. So
he talked more on the upcoming movie. Obviously, I can say so little, but I think it's about characters, and there's something specific to those characters that bring them together, and something that they're going through that isn't the most traditional superhero story to be told. And I think it's sort of similar to the way we're looking at Thunderbolts, is that there is a real clear take and perspective on these characters. And there's specifically to that, in the end, obviously want to make a big universal movie that everyone can connect to, but you can only do that by making something that feels personal. And I think that's what's exciting about the project to us. It almost in a way feels like Suicide Squad-ish in a little bit. We also know that all these characters at some point have faced some tragedy, or were used, or were thrown away. Because you look at the lineup, all these characters in some way were used or were experimented on. Right?
I also kind of feel like it's like one of those situations where it's like, hey, let's take all the super soldiers that we know of and we have, and see if we can pit them against another super soldier that's like maxed out, and see how all the other super soldiers fare as a team against this one, because it's like one of those moments where you're like pushing the bounds. You're trying to see probably if they do the Century in that movie, in the Thunderbolts, like what can he do? Like, and I feel like that would be like putting John Walker, Red Guardian. I mean, you've got a Black Widow there, you've got Ghost, but I mean, like, even Bucky, like, you've got three pretty decently strong super soldiers there that, like...
Taskmaster.
Yeah, and Taskmaster as well. So not only do you have super soldiers...
Taskmaster.
Yeah, air quotes. But yeah, I mean, you've got three decently, like, strong super soldiers there, and then an assassin, and then as well, on top of that, you've got two people with, like, abilities. So, like, it's a very interesting thing. And not only that, but I feel like everyone there was like some sort of like an attempt or tie to like a super soldier-esque type program or something like that, and something
I almost wonder if that Val is experimenting on them, like take samples of their DNA, that kind of stuff, kind of mixes it all together, and that's what kind of leads to the research to make Century possibly. I wonder if that has something to do with the two as well, like they were used by her even.
Yeah, I feel like there's gotta be, like, I mean, we know, like, Bucky, we know Captain America, like Steve Rogers, we know U.S. Agent, Red Guardian. We've got Blonsky, who had the super soldier serum. We've had tons of people, and not only that, but like Blonsky had like gamma radiation mixed with his. So we've had different, like, I guess you could say versions, like mixed with like other things, like different exposure. Cap had the Vita rays. I don't think everybody got the Vita rays and stuff like that. So like, you know, like you kind of have this interesting thing where they've had different variations and different outcomes almost of the super soldier serum. And like John Walker kind of just like took his and snuck it and took it, you know, like, so like it's been different. So I feel like, you know, they have a real chance to figure out maybe who's the most potent one, like who's the strongest one, and figure out like delivery system and stuff. And I feel like that's what the Century will be, is like those results. And I think you're right. Maybe they took the blood of those people and like started working, like trying to figure out like the best way to do it and how to maximize everything.
Some Thor news. There was some buzz around Thor 5 this week, which turned out to be, it was more hypothetical. But it first was said that the official movie book for Thor, Love and Thunder, that Thor 5 was already being planned. And then Taika Waititi reveals that the villain will be more powerful than Hela in this. The quote was, "What is left to do to him? It gotta be something that feels like it's carrying on with the evolution of the character, but still in a very fun way, and still giving him things that come up against that feel like they're building obstacles that he has to overcome. I don't think we can have a villain that's weaker than Hela. I feel like we need to step up from there and add a villain that's somehow more formidable." Later on, Variety came out and said it was a hypothetical, nothing currently in development. Now, if they were to do a Thor 5, they could almost do a Dark Reign / Chaos War storyline. They bring Hades, Pluto into the mix, because we saw a weakened Zeus at the end of Love and Thunder. We saw that he created Hercules. We saw that he was an omnipotent city. You know, you could have Hercules after Thor because of what happened to Zeus. Before Hercules and Thor team up, maybe Hades kills a weakened Zeus, takes over, you know, or destroys the omnipotent. This is my notes I typed down for this. Destroyed the omnipotent city parliament pantheons, or had them in chaos, which set off Hercules. Hercules and Thor have a big fight before realizing that they team up to defeat Hades to restore balance among parliament pantheons. This would build on what we saw in Love and Thunder. So I think that if this were to happen, they could do this. It's like, why else would they introduce Hercules in the closing credit scene not to have him? And Hercules at one point could become the new Thor of the MCU once we kind of move on from Thor.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to be robbed if we don't have a Hercules versus Thor fight at some point, you know? Like, I feel like that's like almost a requirement. When you introduce Hercules in a Thor movie, we have to have them fight at some point. So I feel like Thor 5, like, probably would be where that would happen. And then at some point, like you said, maybe we lose Chris Hemsworth as Thor. We have Hercules, like, kind of like fill that spot. I feel like Hercules, I mean, that Thor Love and Thunder kind of set up him coming to Earth, right? Like, so we know that's going to happen. We know Asgard's on Earth. So I feel like it's just coming. It's only a matter of time, basically.
So yeah, so hopefully we get something like that. I'd love to see that Thor Hercules fight. Wonder what they're going to do with Zeus after what happened, you know? So you kind of can't, you can throw away some things, Love and Thunder, Love, for example. But because we have basically, between Love and Gaia, we have two overpowered people in the MCU right now. Because she basically has Eternity's powers, or there's a reincarnation of Eternity, and Gaia has the Harvest. So right now, we pretty much have two overpowered people in the MCU. You could kind of not have to worry about the Love situation there. It's basically Thor on a solo journey, him versus Hercules, and then him and Hercules have to fix whatever. They come together to fix whatever happened because of Zeus being weakened and omnipotent city and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean, like, you know, like, I don't know, but like, I really want to see Beta Ray Bill at some point. I've kind of like, I guess, set sail on those hopes of that actually happening. I feel like we've had it teased a couple of times.
Guardians.
Like, yeah, I think we saw Corbinites in one of those. I know his face is on the side of the building in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
You know, like, I like, maybe it's just a Corbinite. It may not be Beta Ray Bill, but I feel like we've had that teased a couple of times. Like, And I really want to see that character, and I think it would be cool to see that character maybe as like an enemy at first of Thor and put that in a Thor movie. I don't know if like maybe like you could have like him and Thor beef it out, or maybe like him and Thor and Hercules beef it out.
Yeah.
Now that would be kind of cool, you know. But like, yeah, I mean, like, I hope that character doesn't get tossed to the side. I was a little bit surprised we saw Hercules. I guess not really, but like, I guess personally that we saw Hercules before we saw Beta Ray Bill. I was just expecting to see that character so much earlier by now.
And who knows? We know the Grandmaster is still out there, correct? Out there around somewhere, and maybe he could set off. Beta Ray Bill after Thor for taking his champion. You know,
Definitely.
the Marvels news via Total Film. Director Nia DaCosta shares that Monica Rambeau definitely has a wound that she finally gets to address in the Marvels, and that's going to be what's happened with Carol and Maria. For a child to lose their aunt, then to see their aunt has been popping to Earth every now and then, that can really create a wound. She also addressed Kamala and Carol's relationship. Kamala is the youngest who hasn't had the experience of living with this older sister, but idolizes her. Carol's a bit jaded at the beginning of the film, but Kamala reminds her how amazing she is. And I think that Kamala is probably going to be the bridge that helps Monica and Carol kind of come back together. I think Kamala is going to be that bridge, just to see that. She also talked about Kamala Khan. She's going into space, dealing with crazy space emperors. But the thing I love about Kamala is her belief in people and family. Even in the midst of being around Captain Marvel and out of her depth, she's preserved her strength. Now, that quote says around emperors. So is Dar-Benn, is she basically the emperor of the Kree Empire in this movie then? Who's the main villain? So that's interesting. And speaking of family aspects, I said that about Blue Beetle. The Marvels, Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel captured that family aspect on the MCU side very well too also. It's also been reported that the movie is 98 minutes, which would be the shortest MCU film to date. 1 hour and 38 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder why it's so short.
I don't know, right to the point, no fluff. I like it.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
I mean, I feel like we've already built so much up over time between the first Marvels movie, between Miss Marvel, and between Secret Invasion. We kind of put some pieces together already for this film. And so maybe we can kind of fast forward. I hope we do get the answer of the Bengal and the Kree arm and that kind of stuff. I also hope we get some more context of Carol and where she's been, how she's popped back to Earth. But then also, too, kind of the rise of Monica from S.H.I.E.L.D., from S.W.O.R.D., into Saber as well.
I really hope that we didn't get, like, less movie time of the Marvels because of Secret Invasion. Like, if that would be very disappointing to find out that they're like, oh, Secret Invasion, like, plays, like, into this, so we cut that movie, by X amount of time. I feel like I'd be very disappointed to find that out, just because, like, I felt like leading up to the Marvels, I was a little bit more worried after seeing Secret Invasion than I was, like, going into the Marvels not seeing Secret Invasion, and I don't know why that is, but it was just, like, one of those things where I feel like we see Nick Fury in the trailer for the Marvels leading up to it, so we definitely knew he was going to survive. I just thought that things would be a little bit different at the end of Secret Invasion leading into the Marvels, I suppose.
Well, he also had that thing with Priscilla / Vara about the Skrull Kree peace talks, and I wonder if we get any more context to that, because it looks like the Kree is still not happy in the Marvels here, or at least Dar-Benn is not happy. So I wonder if we get any context around that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that can also play into, like, the Kree-Skrull conflict, ultimately, and they can play that up, like, either just as a recent thing or over, like, thousands of years if they really wanted to, and just kind of explore that a little bit more if they really choose to do so.
I also wonder, too, if we see more context of the anything done with the 10 rings and while Kara was such in a hurry in that post-credit scene for Shang-Chi as well. So that'll be interesting. Speaking of Secret Invasion, the assembled episode, The Making of Secret Invasion, will premiere Wednesday, September 20th.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
Loki Season 2 news. Reported by the Cosmic Circus, He Who Remains will return in new scenes in the Citadel at the end of time. So maybe some more context around what he's been doing, some more backstory there, that kind of thing, in Loki Season 2.
Hopefully, like, they explore what happened in the period after, like, he was killed, you know?
Yeah.
That would be great. It seems like we're missing that little period of time of what happened when it was just Sylvie there with him and Loki was sent back to the TVA. So I would love to see them just explore like that minute afterwards or something, you know, did a new variant come marching in and take over, you know.
Also scenes to his early days there too, maybe. Some flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe him harnessing the power of Goliath, maybe, you know, like that would be very cool too. So,
some Blade news. All 3 movies in the Blade trilogy will begin streaming on the Max this Friday, September 1st.
Okay.
So,
very cool.
Disney Plus shows. So we are, today's the 3rd episode tonight of Ahsoka. So Ahsoka episodes will be dropping weekly on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. I have not watched Ahsoka yet. I'll probably wait till the end and just binge watch it. And of course, we'll have a recap, probably that Mark on for that too as well, of Ahsoka. Loki Season 2 drops weekly on Fridays at 3 a.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. Pacific time. So Loki's going to be Fridays. All episodes of Echo will drop on Wednesday, November 29th at 3 a.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which I just finally got a trailer for recently, that will premiere on December 20th.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's sooner than I thought it would be. Wow.
MCU is going to get some Blu-ray releases, so we're getting some physical media releases of some of the MCU shows. Loki Season 1 will drop September 26th. WandaVision Season 1 will drop November 28th. Loki will have bonus features such as designing the TVA, the TVA orientation, a gag reel, deleted scenes, and an assembled episode as well. Also, The Mandalorian first 2 seasons are getting a physical release as Blu-ray and 4K with a steel book also. So it looks like they're finding other ways to make up some of that money gap. It looks like by giving fans some physical things they can collect.
It's just like the steel book, right? Like, it's not like anything. That's so interesting to me. Like, I feel like, you know, I feel like there should be more than just like a steel book with some collectible content in it almost. I don't know. Just me.
We are getting a D23 this year. So Walt Disney Studios showcasing of their upcoming movies at D23 will take place on September 10th at 10:30 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. Eastern. It says it's going to be new trailers, teasers, announcements, and much more are expected. I don't think we're getting a Fantastic Four cast. I don't think we are.
Yeah, probably not anytime soon, to be honest. I feel like they're going to drag that out. I mean, let's be real. That's going to be something that I feel like with Fantastic Four, they need to really sit down, figure out who they're going to use, and really get a good cast together before they probably announce even probably one of the cast members, because they have to make sure that they can all like work together and I feel like be the Fantastic Four. So I don't know.
I'm telling you, with Shaq been doing it and Shaq been having history on It's Always Sunny, just put the Always Sunny cast in there. You got 4 of them. You know, Charlie can voice the Thing. Dennis can be Mr. Fantastic. You got Matt can be Johnny, and D can be Susan Storm. So,
you know, I think that like they could do some fun stuff. Like, if they really wanted to, up until Secret Wars, we don't necessarily have to have like a new Fantastic Four, in my opinion. They could just bring back like chick lists and random people from like other Fantastic Four movies, you know, and they could do that and just substitute that in until like they reboot everything, I'd be probably pretty happy with that.
And, if they could do is basically when they root everything, start off the very first film, Fantastic Four, the first family, because they are the first family. Start off with them. They brought all kinds of people into the lights, introduced to their comics, the Inhumans, Namor, you can keep going on with different people they've come into. So you could do that, and that's actually a great idea. So
yeah.
And as far as new trailers, with the strike going on, what do you think they're going to do? Star Wars wise, I don't think we're going to see anything. MCU wise, I don't know. What we're going to get as far as new trailers? Could they do? Could they announce like a new Halloween special for like Man-Thing or The Witch's Road or an Agatha trailer?
Yeah.
Could they do sorry, not New World Order, but
Illuminati?
What's Captain America's movie called now?
Oh,
Brave New
Brave
World.
New World. Yeah.
Yeah. Could they? What are they going to tease and announce? Moon Knight season 2. There's a rumor going around that before the strike happened that they already greenlit She-Hulk season 2. So what are they gonna do?
I feel like it's got to be like teasers for stuff that they already had in the pipeline, right? Like it can't be really anything new. So like maybe we'll get some like footage for some stuff that we know they've worked on, but they haven't really showed anything just yet for. Like maybe some like Brave New World footage, like like they'll give you
Marvel's
like,
trailer.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe we'll get like an extra minute and 30-second trailer of the Marvels, or like they'll give us like some extended trailer or something.
Loki?
Maybe.
No.
Yeah.
Loki. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like a little something for Echo too.
Oh yeah. Finally, a trailer for Echo that they showed at SDCC. I guess they showed footage there. So maybe some Daredevil news.
Yeah. So, they have a few options I feel like they could just use, especially with something like Echo. I mean, you basically got like, they're going to release it all at once anyways. So like they could like pump out a trailer, I feel like, and kind of push that. And they could do like an extended trailer for like 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And try and do something like that. I feel like maybe that would be beneficial. I don't know.
I mean, they could surprise us with a Fantastic Four casting. I doubt it's going to happen, but it could happen. They need to get moving on something.
Yeah, and I feel like, honestly, I would like to see something out of, like, Blade, and just tell us something, like, something's happening. Tell us an idea, like, what your plans are, like, what the villain's got, like, where you're going with this, like, give us, like, a little bit more. I think that would be great. But I feel like maybe we just get like older news, like maybe elaborated on more, maybe,
Do we get a Deadpool 3 footage, maybe?
Maybe.
Some kind of tease on Deadpool 3, maybe? Or Ryan Reynolds doing some kind of skit with Hugh Jackman in the costume, maybe?
Yeah, or maybe we get like some like Deadpool in the TVA, like teaser or something like that from, something, maybe him meeting Loki or something, like, they could do something like that, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like we're in kind of like a weird spot here between everything that's going on and how that impacts like the marketing of everything and them trying to like push stuff. So I don't really know what they can and can't do. So it's kind of hard, I feel like, to really kind of lean one way or the other there.
Or Nova or Ghost Rider news. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, they don't really have to, like, I feel like, show anything for those. They could just be like, hey, here's, like...
Our new timeline, logos.
Yeah, like, they could just be like, hey, here's what we have, like, in the pipeline. Boom. And, yeah, they could do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But, yeah, who knows?
So, the Flash news. It ended its theatrical run at $268 million worldwide. The budget was around $220 million. It is now streaming on the Max as of August 25th. And I actually watched it this weekend. So, the other one, so there were some Blue Beetle news that James Gunn came out and did say, I can't wait for audiences to meet Jaime Reyes. He'll be an amazing part of the DCU going forward. So that's a clear hint. We have some Batman, the Brave and the Bold stuff. Basically, there were rumors of John Krasinski Like people were like tweeting pictures of John Krasinski and Batman, that kind of stuff. There was rumors going on that he was going to be the DCU Batman for the Brave and the Bold. James Gunn addressed him via social media. He's saying that the DCU's Batman has not been cast yet. He said, we don't even have a script, and there's a strike happening, so no casting, which made me believe that we're not getting Fantastic Four casting for D23 either. The DCU's Batman is first expected to appear in Andy Muschietti's The Brave and the Bold.
Yeah. Interesting.
Scott Pilgrim, the series will be on Netflix, the new animated series, on November 17th. There's actually a trailer out now too as well. All the original cast is back to voice them. So Chris Evans, Brie Larson, Jason Schwartzman, Aubrey Plaza, Michael Cera, everyone's back to voice the characters for this. So
interesting.
Barbie news. It hits a milestones here this last week. It is now Warner Brothers' highest grossing movie ever at the domestic box office. It has also become the highest grossing movie ever worldwide. It's also the highest grossing domestic movie of 2023. So there you go. We have some Monarch Legacy of Monsters, which will be on Apple TV. This is going to build on the recent films of Kong and Godzilla versus Kong, or those films.
It's be like a monster movie kind of type thing.
Yeah, they're built their MonsterVerse thing. So it's going to be a 10-episode series on Apple. Appears to take place after the 2014 Godzilla film that left San Francisco and a disastrous state, as well in the 1950s, following the early days of the mysterious Monarch group. So basically, the one with Elizabeth Olsen and Pietro, her brother.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yes, their movie. So that started. So we had Godzilla, then we had Skull Island, then we had Kong vs. Godzilla.
Okay.
So it's going to basically follow that movie. But in a fun twist, the show will feature a military officer named Lee Shaw across both time periods. So we're going in the past, in the future. Here's the fun part, though. Wyatt, who is basically John, U.S. agent, John Walker.
Oh, Wyatt Russell.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell, his father, will play the same character, right? So Wyatt's going to be the earlier one, and Kurt is going to be the older one, playing the same army officer in different eras. So basically it's saying, following Thunder's battle between Godzilla and the Titans that level San Francisco, and the shocking revelation that monsters are real, Monarch, a Legacy of Monsters, tracks two siblings following in their father's footsteps to uncover their family's connection to the secretive organization known as Monarch. Clues lead them into the world of monsters and ultimately down the rabbit hole to Army Officer Lee Shaw, played by both Russell, Wyatt, and Kurt, taking place in the 1950s and a half century later, where Monarch is threatened by what Shaw knows. The dramatic saga, spanning 3 generations, reveals buried secrets in the ways that epic, earth-shattering events can reverberate through our lives. That sounds pretty cool, and I can't wait to watch that. I actually enjoy those films, so I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, Rebel Moon. So the trailer's out for that one, for Zack Snyder's thing on Netflix. Basically, it was kind of almost like a Star Wars ripoff with stormtroopers that can actually hit targets. Anyways, the titles for Rebel Moon films are reportedly Part 1, A Child of Fire, and Part 2, The Scaregiver. So yeah. Also, too, when you went to see Blue Beetle, did you see a lot of previews? I saw, I think, three previews of my film. It was like the shortest amount of previews ever I've seen in the movie theater recently.
So I'm so terrible. So there was a lot of previews, but I always do this thing where like if the movie's at like 7:50, I show up at 8 o'clock. That way, like I miss most of the previews because like I have it like timed out, and I always walk in like last couple, like I've shown up like either right on time or just a little bit late. But this one I walked in, I think at 8:05. I was running late. I got popcorn, I got a drink and everything like that. And I went in and like sat down, and there was still probably 5 or 10 minutes of previews. Like after, I felt like it was weird. Like I felt like, you're right, like it had a large amount of previews, and I was like a little bit shocked because like it was more of just like wasn't really like previews for like other movies, but it was like previews for just like stuff. Like I felt like it was like filler almost. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how to explain it, but like I didn't really pay too much attention. I can't really tell you in my head what I saw, but like I remember like there being some stuff running on the screen and stuff like that when I walked in. So,
So we had 3 in ours, right? That I can recall. I mean, I spaced out most of the previews, but it felt like they went faster than usual. So we had 3. So we had Willy Wonka. We had
was there Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
No.
I saw a commercial for that. Okay, my bad.
Okay, I won't blank now. I know we had Willy Wonka. We had Dune 2, which, by the way, Dune 2 still showed the release date.
I saw Dune.
November.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
But Dune 2 has been delayed to March 14th, 2024 now because of all the strikes going on. But what was the third one? We only had 3. It was Dune, Willy Wonka, and something else. That's all we had was like three trailers that I could like actually remember.
I saw the Wonka one because it's the one with what's his name?
Timothy Chalamet and yeah,
the tall dude who played Loki.
Oh yeah.
Oompa
Loompa. What's his name?
I don't know why I cannot remember his name, but
yeah, he's the English actor.
Yep. I cannot remember his name. Hugh Grant is.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Hugh Grant, like it had him. I remember seeing that. So yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. I can't think of the other ones though.
I can't remember the third one. I had it and I forgot it. What the third movie was. But anyways, it was interesting to see that the trailers were in this weekend. We're still showing the old date for Dune 2, and now that Dune 2 is basically pushed back to March 14th, 2024.
That's
which I wouldn't.
weird.
Yeah, which I wouldn't be surprised if Deadpool gets pushed back too due to what's going on.
I feel like everything's gonna get pushed back. You know.
I think Brave New World still will make its date because it was pretty much done. It was in post production, so I think that will still happen. But I think everything else is gonna get pushed back. Besides the Marvels are still on track.
Well, yeah.
Aquaman is still on track. Aquaman 3, is it? Or 2? 2.
Yeah, The Lost Kingdom, I think, is the title of this one.
Yeah.
You're wrong on that, so
yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how it'll shake out. But yeah, I was looking forward to Dune 2 as well. My son was actually asking about it. He goes, "Can we watch the original Dune again?" I was like, okay. So, with Kyle MacLachlan. So,
cool.
Yeah. That's all we have today for the news. Andy will be back probably with us another week or 2. He's going to be on holiday for a little bit. I'm not sure what we're doing Sunday yet, if we're going to do anything this weekend. I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. If not, we'll catch you later. I'll get this one posted as soon as possible, probably tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll get this one posted just because I'm trying to keep on that weekly cadence of stuff. So
I'm a little bit behind on YouTube, so I need to get caught up. I've just been so busy with work, so
I get it.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's a holiday weekend here, so probably won't do next week. We'll probably wait till the week after because I'll be traveling too. So, anyways, any closing thoughts or anything?
No. Go out and see Blue Beetle. I liked it. You know, it's exciting. Good movie. Few small issues, but definitely not the worst thing I've seen come out of DC. I can say that much. So, you know, yeah, I mean, go see that movie. And yeah, before DCU starts over, why not, you know, I mean, I guess it's technically started over, but why not give Blue Beetle a watch? Because, yeah, I'm sure it'll be on HBO Max when?
I don't know. I don't think we've had it yet.
It'll probably be like in a month or 2, I feel like.
October.
Yeah, somewhere maybe like around then. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess you can wait, but yeah, I mean, like, I think it's worth the watch. I enjoyed watching it in the theater. The sound was really good in my theater. So,
the proper use of Kickstart My Heart.
Yes, I love that scene. We forgot to talk about that. Yeah, I love that song, and I like Motley Crue. So, like, when they played that, I was just like, "Whoa! I did not expect that." And I was just like, I like looked down at my phone for a second, and then like I saw that, and I was like, "Whoa! Like that's awesome!" But yeah, is very good, and yeah, go see that movie.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely recommend it. I'm most likely going to see it Friday with my wife. So while the kids are in school, so. Definitely recommend it. Other than that, we'll talk to you soon. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.